It's time for me to discuss my favorite UFC moments in 2023. Wholesome moments, press conference moments, interviews, fights, fraud checks. We're going to talk about it, guys. And without further ado, let's get into it. The first moment and my favorite moment from 2023. Alexander Volkanovski humiliating the best grappler in the sport, Islam Makhachev, in the fourth round, the round in which he won. Even if Makhachev won that fight, Volk won the round. I'll argue that in a couple of minutes. But listen, guys, this is probably one of the coolest moments of the year. Volkanovski having his back taken, and I know people are going to be pissed off at me saying that. He had his back taken, buddy. That's the most dominant position in jiu-jitsu. Dude, it's the back take. Got to give him the round. No, you don't have to give him the round when you're getting punched in the face 50 times. What did Islam Makhachev do in this moment that won him the moment? Again, people tend to bring this up in my live streams. Whenever someone gets their back taken and I'm watching the fight and they're like, hey, you going to give the guy the round who got his back taken? And I always say no, because the guy that had his back taken was freaking out, fighting the hands, worried about submissions. Volkanovski, with the best grappler in the entire sport, who he was expected to get dominated by on the ground, is not only cool, calm as a cucumber, but punching him in the face 50 times repeatedly and yelling and laughing at him while 50,000 Aussies are going absolutely bonkers in the stadium. And this is a headline from a website or some kind of a news outlet that's not related to MMA. So this is like the casual perspective on this. And this is what they said. Alexander Volkanovski yells during an incredible exchange as the Australian sends fans in Perth wild by taunting Islam Makhachev and landing punches behind his own head on the ground at UFC 284. Makhachev cowering behind him, breathing on his neck. Wow, what an amazing dominant performance from Makhachev, breathing on someone's neck. Still, Volkanovski outlanded him on the feet before this exchange even happened. But again, I'll go to my grave with this argument. Volk won this round. Even if he lost the first 3 rounds, he won this one and he won the 5th. But you got to give it to him, man. You got to give it to him. 99% of the time when people have their back taken by much lesser grapplers, again, they look like a baby that just got put on the ground in the woods and they're trying to reach for something. They're trying to fight the hands. Volkanovski was just laughing his ass off, having the time of his life when this Makhachev dude was just fucking breathing on his neck. Wow. Whoa, he really got him. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, great moment from Volk. You guys are going to say I'm coping. I've yet to see a good argument as to why Makhachev wins this moment when he's getting punched in the face repeatedly. I mean, listen, I've said this a million times, but let's say you're Makhachev or you're Volk and you're going to show your grandkids the 4th round. Who would you rather be? Do you want to be Makhachev showing your grandkids this moment where 50,000 Aussies are going bonkers because there's a guy punching you in the face and yelling in your face when you're supposed to be the best grappler? Or do you want to be Volk, who's saying, yeah, this is me, guys, the best grappler in the sport. That's what I did to him in the 4th, man. Ha ha. You want to be Volk, all right? So quit playing around. This is the best moment. On to the next one. The coolest staredown ever. I know old heads are going to be like, dude, you must be brand new to watching MMA. It's Mirko Cro Cop and Wanderlei Silva. And I understand it's one of those things where I probably had to be there and I wasn't there. And I don't understand the magnitude of that fight, Mirko and Wanderlei. But this is objectively better. And this is probably the best staredown in MMA history. Again, if you're going to make the argument for Mirko Cro Cop and Wanderlei Silva, that was 15 seconds long. This was like 2.5 minutes long. So right off the bat, this destroys that because it's a more intense staredown. 2 minutes. It's got music, like epic movie climax music playing in the background. Whereas Mirko Cro Cop and Wanderlei Silva's staredown was, as I said, 15 seconds, and the referee was just reading out the rules. All right, rules and regulations, tough touch gloves, and you guys are under my command. Basically, you know what I mean? It's just, come on. Obviously, this is way better. This is like a Mortal Kombat worthy fight. I know the Axe Murderer versus the mercenary Cro Cop was awesome as well. But come on, man. This was something that was out of a movie. It didn't even seem real at the time. It wasn't just a guy going like this, yeah, and Mirko Cro Cop staring him down. This was 2 minutes and 30 seconds with Jiri Prohaska, the woodsman who buries himself in a cabin for 10 months at a time. And Alex Pereira, just look at him with his Eastern Island head, dude. This is way better, rather than a 15-second stare down with the referee reading out all right, touch gloves when I see you command. All right, yeah, okay, great. Let's get on to the next one. Shit's all over it. Coolest stare down in UFC history. Jiri's music was awesome. It was like we saw the return of the king coming back for what's rightfully his. It just sucks that this ended with an early stoppage. You know what I mean? That this would have been way better. It's like a cliffhanger of the movie. It could have ended on this note. I would have rather have waited another couple of months to see the actual fight, other than them stealing a fight from us because there was an early stoppage. But, I'm just joking around, guys. That's actually real Cope. That's real Cope right there. But, yeah, man, it just sucks, man. Alex Pereira and Mark Goddard, the most dangerous tag team in UFC history right there. Sean Strickland putting his hands down with his chin on a silver platter, walking down the best striker in the UFC. Like, I was about to say, people talked about Izzy as the best striker ever. I don't have to exaggerate. People talked about him as the best striker in the UFC. That in and of itself is an embarrassment. When you have sloppy man Sean Strickland, I know we don't think of Sean Strickland as sloppy now. Not sloppy. He always had good defense. But Sean Strickland was thought of as, he's just a couple cuts below. He'll never be truly elite. And look at him marching down Stylebender, the guy that had been overhyped to oblivion for years. And he's just screaming at him after making Izzy swing and miss for 5 rounds, putting him on the back foot. And Adesanya was so mentally broken at the time that he didn't even have it within him to let go like a do or die combination. This was perfect. All right. It was poetic justice. I love this moment. This is a great photo. Let's get on to the next one. Up next, we got Guram, Demir, and Abus getting exposed in the same night, the night of the fraud checks. That's right. Grant Dawson, sloppy American grappler Grant Dawson getting the better of Demir Ismagulov, the cyborg brick wall takedown defense. Sloppy man's shoot box, wild man with no technical ability, destroying Guram Kutateladze, who the Weasel was talking about as a guy that would beat Rafael Fiziev. I think he beats Fiziev, guys. Any given moment, I think Guram Kutateladze would go out there. Yeah, it'd be a tough fight for Islam Makhachev. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. People would have picked this guy to beat Makhachev. And not only that, I guarantee you half of the hardcore fans would probably pick Makhachev to beat them by decision, right? Like a 48-47. I personally think it'd be pretty close, 48-47. Guram Kutateladze stuffing the takedowns, maybe outstriking him at moments. Demir Ismagulov, brick wall takedown defense, and the beautiful jab. Oh, yeah, for sure. 48-47s across the board in every single matchup against the best in the division, like Charles and Makhachev. 48-47 going either way. Either way. Yeah. And there, again, Grant Dawson, just a typical guy. Again, really good grappler. Grant Dawson's a good grappler, but going into this fight, shitty American grappler Grant Dawson. No way he beats Demir. Wild man, unknown, shoot box Elvis Brenner. No way he beats Guram. Abus Magomedov, a bit of a different situation because most fans were not picking Abus. Again, you're not coming into the UFC with no 5-round experience as a guy that got knocked out by Bilal Muhammad's coach and went to a crappy decision over the PFL can Sadibou Sai. I know Strickland talks about Sadibou Sai as like one of the best strikers ever. Strickland's biased like anyone else. Sadibou Sai is a can. And yeah, the UFC was the only one that really believed in Abus because they kind of wanted a new, fresh name at the top of the division. But the fans weren't buying that BS except the Germans or the Dagestanis. But at the same time, a fraud check in a way nonetheless. Strickland destroying him with all of his 5-round experience and, yeah, just staying cool, calm, and collected, making this guy miss in the beginning of the fight. So one of my favorite nights in general, seeing Guram lose, even though he was winning the majority of the fight, seeing him have a battle going to hell and back with Elvis Brenner, some unknown at the time, was hilarious. Seeing Grant Dawson take Demir's back and just totally out-grapple him for the entirety of the fight was also funny as fuck. And I think there was one point where Dawson had Demir in one of the most embarrassing positions you could possibly have someone on the ground. I think he was holding like his arms behind his head. And you could just see Demir stretched out like this. And oh man, I'd love to be a fly on the wall to see the Weasel's reaction to that one. So what an amazing night. And let's get to my favorite fraud check. Curtis Blaydes getting fraud checked by Pavlovich, the best wrestler in the division. And this was my most satisfying fraud check of the year. I picked Pavlovich to knock him out in the first round because Curtis Blaydes always freezes up in big moments, number one contender fights against like big punchers. And every number one contender fight is going to have a big puncher in the heavyweight division, unless it's against Gon or Almeida. But for the most part, always a big puncher. But people overrated Curtis Blaydes so much, bro. And the things that they would say about him would piss me off. Okay? It wasn't that they were saying, I think he can be a guy that contends for a belt. He'll be a top 5 in the future. It was, just pretend that I'm a guy and you're asking me about Curtis Blaydes. Oh, Curtis Blaydes. I mean, future champion, undoubtedly. Future champion. Everybody got bound on to Curtis Blaydes as a future champ. They were talking about this guy like he was 100%, without a doubt, a future champ. I mean, if it were up to them, you would probably just have a fucking ceremony where you would wrap the belt around his waist. The way that they were talking about him. That's that Curtis Blaydes, man. Salute Curtis Blaydes, future champion right there. Future champion. Watch him go by. Fuck off. Future champion my ass. Getting absolutely fucking dusted by Pavlovich in the first round. And I like Curtis Blaydes. I'm a fan of Blaydes, all right? I actually am. I know, like, I sound heated right now, but it's his fans that, again, if it were up to them, they would have had a ceremony where the UFC just wraps the belt around this guy's waist because, again, 100% future champ. The future champ's in the room. Yeah, future champ getting a whole fucking hole punch through his face. Plotty man Blaydes that bends over at the waistline, stunk it up against Volkov, stunk it up against Rosenstrike. Still a good wrestler, but not as good as people were making him out to be. And also, to be fair, he does freeze up in front of all of his tough matchups and just somehow isn't able to pull the trigger with what he needs to be doing. So there's that. I'm a fan of him just because he seems like a great guy. You know what I mean? I listened to Curtis Blaydes' interviews. He's a hard worker. He's a great guy. And I actually would like to see him become a future champion, right? I'd like to see Blaydes become a future champ. After all the adversity that he's gone through, getting knocked out by Ngannou twice, Derek Lewis, Pavlovich. I'd love to see him fight someone like Cyril Gane or Jailton Almeida next. And you know what? I'll be rooting for Curtis Blaydes. I was a big fan of Jailton Almeida. I still like him, but that last one was just such a disappointment. You know, it's Derek Lewis. I know Derek Lewis has the ability to just get up, but come on. You're Jailton Almeida. You should be submitting Derek Lewis if you're as good as we thought. I hope Curtis Blaydes goes out there and beats Jailton Almeida. So, yeah, this was just a great moment. And, yeah, I got my pick right on top of that. So let me show you guys my reaction to this one as well, because I went berserk, right? And this was around the time that the Lucas Tracy curse started to pick up, and people had started clowning me for my takes. So this was a satisfying one for me. Blaydes is looking a little labored. He had one of those takedown stuffed, but Pavlovich is not. Oh, he dropped him again. He dropped. Yeah! Yeah! Let's go! Yeah! Let's go! Knocked him out, baby. What I say? Up next, we got Charles Oliveira tearing the house down, blowing the roof off of the stadium in Canada. He really felt like an honorary Canadian. Just such a wholesome moment when a lot of people, including myself, were counting him out, saying that he was washed up. His chin wasn't going to be the same. Not washed up, but the fact that his chin wasn't going to be the same. He goes out there, demolishes Beneil Dariush, gets on the mic, and starts speaking English, dude. I think the first thing he said is, "Hello, Canada! Hello, Vancouver! I thanks so much. A big support, a big fan, a big champion. The Charles du Bronx, a Charles du Bronx, down Cavallero." Such an amazing moment from Charles Oliveira. And, dude, I guarantee the Brazil crowd wouldn't have went this crazy with Charles winning in Brazil if that fight was down there, knowing how they treat their legends like Glover Teixeira. In the third round, it's time to beat traffic. Let's get out of here. When Glover's in a title fight, I understand Charles is a bigger star, and he's just much more popular right now. He's in his prime. It could be a little bit different, but the fact that he had this kind of reception in Canada, of all places, really goes to show that he is truly the most beloved fighter in the UFC. I did a poll for my award show on who the people's champ was, and I had 4 different options, and Charles just swept the poll unanimously. It was like 57% Charles, and there were 3 other options. So this was a real wholesome moment. One of my favorites of the year. Anyway, up next, we got Colby Covington addressing the elephant in the room as soon as he got on the mic at the UFC 296 press conference in Ian Garry. No beating around the bush. No fucking around.
I like it. I got one more survey for you all. For all the people out there, how many of you guys have fucked Ian Garry's wife? Oh man. Wow.
Again, just getting right after it, giving the people what they wanted. If only Ian Garry had shown up. And I know that Colby Covington right now, everyone's against him, but this was a funny moment. Up next, you're attacking my family. What? You're attacking my family. Now what? Now, this was a little bit of a crazy moment. Anthony Smith's family getting attacked by Johnny Walker. At least in his head. This is probably the funniest moment of the year. Anthony Smith coping with the fact that he's getting his fucking ass whooped by Johnny Walker. And of course, in typical Anthony Smith fashion, creating some fake beef in his head with Johnny Walker, who has never hurt a fly. And Anthony Smith, again, remember at the Staredowns, he refused to shake the hand of Johnny Walker. This is a guy that created some weird fake beef with Ryan Spann as well and claimed that Ryan Spann was out here talking a lot of smack, which just never was the case. And essentially, Smith was just out here coping because he was getting his ass kicked and he was trying to fire himself up a little bit and claimed that this guy was attacking his family. And yeah, man, this is one of those, karma's best served hot moments for Anthony. I don't even know if that's a thing, dude. Karma's best served hot for Anthony Smith when he's out there getting his legs torn to shreds. His on-paper game plan is failing because they didn't roll out that sheet of paper for him to fight on in the beginning of this. Without a doubt, one of the coolest moments of the year. Maybe not so cool, kind of pathetic if you're going to be honest about it, but it was funny. It was hilarious. And let's get on to the next one. Up next, we got Manel Kape sunning Adesanya and City Kickboxing. There's Adesanya standing up to him, Manel Kape, not giving a fuck. He was going at Kai Kara-France of all people. Dude, Kai Kara-France, man. The guy dresses like a middle schooler. He's a hype beast. He rocks Supreme. Like, he's some little pipsqueak that people think is like a UFC legend just because he's one of the boys at City Kickboxing. They act like Kai Kara-France is some cool-ass motherfucker, when in reality, he's a little pipsqueak that should be wearing a little peasant's hat with a little feather on it, and he looks like an elf. You know what I mean? He literally looks like an elf. What is the guy? Oh, he's so cool. He sticks his tongue out at weigh-ins. Like he's trying to be some scary Maori guy. He's like 2% Maori. Yeah, I was happy to see him get called out by Manel Kape for pulling out of the fight. And yeah, exposing City Kickboxing and their philosophy as hypocritical, always shitting on fighters for pulling out of fights. We never allow our fighters to pull out of fights unless they have either a concussion or a wedding. And they've been pulling out left and right this year. Even if Kai Kara-France had a concussion, he's still whack. All right? People talk about Kai Kara-France like he's Mark Hunt status. One of the most boring flyweights, one of the most overhyped flyweights that people only give a fuck about because he's boys with Izzy. And it's like the weird City Kickboxing, all these millennial Supreme wearing fucking hype beasts at City Kickboxing. Like, I don't know. The whole City Kickboxing vibe is just kind of cringy. That's why Volk doesn't even train there. Volk trains in Wollongong, all right, in New South Wales, Australia, because he can only take so much of their nonsense. But yeah, man, Kai Kara-France, Pipsqueak France, getting treated like he's, yeah, that's like Mark Hunt level, man. No, he's not Nate Diaz. He's not Mark Hunt. He's got one cool moment in the UFC where he knocked his opponent out and emoted on him, and the opponent got mad, and it was like this funny moment at the Apex. You guys get my point. And I loved seeing Manel Kape just go crazy, go off on City Kickboxing and their cringy, hype beast, like millennial Supreme culture, right? Everyone's rocking Supreme, their little snapback 2013 hats. And Manel Kape just scorching them at the press conference, telling Adesanya, what you want?
Shut the fuck up, motherfucker. What you want? What you want? What you want to? What you want? All right, yeah. Shut the fuck down. Sit down. Yo, things is restricted. Sit the fuck down. Sit the fuck down.
Look at this little midget trying to fuck with me. I will fucking bury you.
What the fuck you are? What the fuck you are? Shut your mouth.
Hey, I'm here. Relax.
Hey, calm the fuck down. That's not the fight, dude. Leave the little man alone.
A great press conference in general. UFC 293 press conference. Strickland, Manel Kape. Like, Strickland was great at this press conference, but I actually thought Manel Kape was the one that stole the show. And there's Tai Tuivasa. Oh my, don't even get me started on Tai Tuivasa, bro. But Tai Tuivasa's a boss, man. But at the same time, people talk about Tai Tuivasa like he's some kind of legend on the mic. Yeah, Tai Tuivasa, obviously one of the most entertaining heavyweights on the mic. Yeah, you want Tai Tuivasa at a press conference. Really? Why? What does he say at a press conference other than, I'm coming to knock him out? I don't know. I don't know why I just did the Scouser thing, but, you know, what is this guy giving us? Eshe, Sydney. Oh, wow. So entertaining. People paint Tai out to be like this hilarious heavyweight, like he's Derek Lewis. When he's not, he's just a guy that is a fun fighter to watch, and he likes to drink and go out and party. And you get my point. He's not that funny, and he is not a guy that's like good at press conferences. I don't know why people bring him up like he is. Okay, he's a good fighter. He's much cooler than Kai Kara-France. Oh, he's much cooler than Kai Kara-France. But yeah, David Goggins being an excellent cornerman for Tony Ferguson, and all the hardcore fans coping about it and saying, this guy has no business being in our gracious, precious sport. Yeah, cut the shit. I'm tired of it. David Goggins is an excellent cornerman. Strength and conditioning coach? Not so much, all right? Striking coach, grappling coach? Of course not. Now, I'll give it to you. It was funny to see David Goggins and his training method for Tony Ferguson fail miserably in front of his eyes, 100%, and just yelling at Tony Ferguson to get up. But at the same time, David Goggins is the perfect guy to have in a corner in an MMA fight. Half the time, corner advice is either breathe, catch your breath. Yep, you're going to slip that one too. It's not even that technical. Or it's just a hype talk. It's like a big pump-up speech. Like, we see those all the time. You couldn't ask for a better cornerman. Again, these fans act like, you know, every single cornerman, when you have 3 of them, have to just be giving you this perfect technical device. And people act like there's no place for a guy just being there to, like, actually yell at you a little bit and pump you up and give you a legendary David Goggins off-the-chain rant. I would love that. But, yeah, this was just hilarious, too, seeing David Goggins walk out with Tony Ferguson. I like David Goggins a lot. I think he's a boss. He's a hard man. And, you know, I understand he's not a fighter. I get it. He's not a fighter. But I guarantee you, if he put his all into fighting, he actually probably overtrain. David Goggins wouldn't make top 15 because he'd have too many injuries. And he would be thrown around like a rag doll because of how fragile his body would become in comparison to his opponents. So, obviously, not ideal for fighting to just be all gas, no brakes 100% of the time. But David Goggins is still a fucking savage, and he's a boss. I like David Goggins, but I'm not being biased. Again, perfect cornerman 90% of the time, or maybe not 90% of the time, but like 50% of the time. Corner advice is a coach, one of these, you know, all-knowing MMA coaches, telling their fighter to breathe, slow your breathing down. Yep, catch your breath now. Or it's them giving them a pump-up talk where they're just hyping their fighter up to go out there and like get their shit together, put the pressure on, and like time to grit down on the mouthpiece. Come on, let's go. But anyway, guys, that is it for the video. And I want to ask you to let me know in the comments, what were your favorite UFC moments in 2023? Until next time.